Hello? Bob, I think I need help. Hi.
We're going to go ahead and get started, guys.
Okay.
So the same as we did the meeting last time around, we're going to do it the same way this time. So I will go ahead and introduce our guest, and then she's going to do her presentation. And when you are ready to ask questions at the end, just go ahead and type them in the chat window or send them to me in a text message, and I will forward your questions. Give me 1 second to figure out why the video is not working properly. There we go.
Uh-oh. Oh, okay.
Bear with me. Okay, I think we're good now.
Okay.
All right, so welcome, Rita. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Rita Harrington, Executive Director of the Allentown Art Festival. She is going to talk to us about the obvious challenges that we're facing this year in terms of art festivals and how they're handling it, and a little bit more about what she does and how Allentown works. So without further ado, Rita, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. This obviously is a much different evening than I had anticipated. I thought I'd be enjoying a lovely dinner tonight in East Aurora at the we all are, I guess, the beginnings of the show, funded by Buffalo artists Louis Chirenza and Tony Sisti, along with merchants on Allen Street. They put together this show, and from what I understand, the first shows were simply anybody could come, and people hung up their paintings from trees, and that was the founding members of the Allentown Village Society had a purpose, and the purpose was to support the arts and crafts in Buffalo. And they brought this show together in the Allentown neighborhood, which is a nice, funky, artsy little neighborhood. It's a lot of fun. And so the show started off very small, obviously, and grew very large. Years became extremely popular and had turned into a bit of and sell whatever it is that they wanted to sell. Well, by 1970, the show had grown to, unfortunately, or fortunately, actually, in some strange ways, 1970 was a watershed year for the Allentown Art Festival because there was a riot in the neighborhood. And although the riot had nothing to do with the art festival, the powers that be in Buffalo determined that the Allentown Art Festival should be no more. It was a chaotic scene. It was a turbulent time, obviously, but our founders persisted, and they convinced the authorities, the mayor of Buffalo, Mayor Sedita, and the police and fire commissioners, that they would change the tenor of the show, and they did. The show changed from a freewheeling event to a juried art show. Now, over the years, we've become a very well respected show. And along with the changing of the be even more serious in their purpose. Their purpose was to become not just promoters of the arts, but also patrons of the arts. And as such, they put together programs that we still use today. One of the programs that we have is a scholarship program, on average, $25,000 to students throughout Western New York who plan to become art majors in college. We had started initially with just Erie County and then realized that we wanted to be a part of the entire Western New York community. So we have expanded our program for any student in any of the 8 counties in Western New York who would like to become an art major can apply for one of our scholarships. And it's been very successful over the years, and it's a program that we're very, very proud of. We also support children's groups throughout the city. We support children's programs at the Albright Knox, at the Birchfield Penny, at Locust Street, Buffalo Public Schools. We actually have the kids have a booth at the show. The teachers get a grant from us, and the students present their work at the show. It's really one of my favorite parts of the show. Just it's incredible to see what these young people are doing, and our mission is to support budding artists. We're very, very proud of that, and we have a lot of ideas about how to continue that in the future by possibly bringing. We had a program for emerging artists, and we'd like to bring that back. But we also, over the years, we send 10 students a year to the New York State Summer School for the Arts in Chautauqua. We've contributed close to $200,000 to the Buffalo Philharmonic for children's concerts. So we're very, very proud of the commitment that we've, visual or music. It's something that's really very important to us. We, over the years, well, actually, before I get to technology, one thing that I would like to show you is our poster. Our poster this year, I hope you can see it, was done by Jim Shallier, okay, and that's what it says. Okay, and he is a Buffalo artist who did this poster without the pandemic in mind. This was done before the pandemic became such an enormous issue for all of us. He did this poster with a fist on it to represent strength and power in art. And that's something I think that we often don't think about. We think about, unfortunately, I don't even want to talk about the cuts to in our school system, where, unfortunately, it seems like the humanities are the first to go. But in any case, this poster this year has become even more powerful because what we're facing this year takes strength and it takes power, and we can find comfort in art. I think that's definitely true, whether it is art, the visual arts, music, but art is something that's vital to all of us. And we actually, in the spirit of giving also, this year, we're selling this poster and t-shirts on our website. All of the proceeds will be donated to the Food Bank of Western New York. So far, we have $3,000 to donate, and we're very, very excited about that. We're really happy about that. Trying to turn something good out of this incredibly difficult year. We made the decision to cancel the show back in April because at that time, we were probably one of the first to cancel. I believe the first actually to cancel in Buffalo. We realized that even though the economic impact is huge, the potential health impact on citizens, artists, everybody, our patrons, and we couldn't take a chance with the next best thing, which is we have a virtual show. Now, our virtual show, it's kind of funny that we of all people would be doing this because we were so far behind with technology that many of you who have been in our show probably remember we were taking slides for it's not that long ago that we changed out of slides to go into electronic submissions. but we actually used to go and get slides made for some people who would send us photos and say, we have no idea how to get slides. And we would do it, and we'd go out and get the slides made. So anyway, we have gone from Luddites, I guess, in the technology field to cutting edge. And it's astonishing to us, but we are. Um, this year, I invite all of you to go to our website and see the virtual show. It was done by one of our members, John Fiore. He's a volunteer, as the rest of us are. He designed our website. He designed the virtual show. And he's got lots and lots of ideas about how we can expand on this virtual show, because we're thinking that this is something that we will continue to offer even when things get back to some state of normalcy, which we hope will be 2021. But if you go to the show, to our virtual show, you can see all of the artists' work, all of the artists who would have been in our show. And we really hope, if we would appreciate if social media to direct them to our show, because and our artists, I think, especially because this is their livelihood, and it's a very difficult time for them to be at home and unable to travel and unable to do shows. So it's really good. It's a great show. It's a great virtual show, and other shows have contacted us to ask us how we did it. So we feel very pleased that we were able to do this. But in normal years, the show, I'm the president of Allentown, and also I'm in charge of the entry and placement, which means when you get your space, I would be the one to put you in there. And if you don't like your space, I'm the one that you call and say, we like to accommodate artists, because we it's very important to us to be understanding, because we know that it's important how artwork is displayed. Certain artwork does better in the sun, certain artwork doesn't, and we like to be accommodating to everyone. The show, as I said, canceled this year was devastating to all of us, but we know there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we will be back. And next year we plan to have a real gala event we'll be celebrating with the Wilcox Mansion. So next year should really be a big, exciting event. And we have music in the show now. We sort of try to just make things the show is family friendly, and we want people to come out and enjoy the show. But also, it's important to us to bring art to the community. We bring your work to the streets for people to see that. Just, I think it's a people can interact with you and meet you and talk to you, and it's just, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for artists and the public to get together. Just as an aside, so I can brag about the show just a little more. I moved kind of lost because I didn't know anybody, and it was difficult. And I went to this Allentown Art Festival. I had never been to anything like that. I loved it. It was just incredible. And said, I'd love to help out. And I was a lunch lady for many years, which was fine. I loved doing that, and just got more and more involved. And anyway, I ended up becoming president of the show. And we're a great event, I will say. We bring a lot of people to Buffalo. And it's I think we're the kickoff to the summer. That weekend in June, this weekend in June, it's an exciting time. And next year, I hope that we will be back in all our glory. And that's about all I have to say. So I'd love to have any questions.
Okay, so I did get a question via text, and I'm going to read it
Okay.
to you. It's kind of long.
All right.
But it's a really important question for all of us as artists. So our member would like to know what you think the future looks like for selling quality craft now that the shows are temporarily canceled. And once they're back, shows seem to be more entertainment for attendees than sales channels for anything over $40. Many of the galleries are closing, and online sales don't seem well suited to more expensive items that people want to see and touch before buying. So, how does an artist who's making work in that well over $40 category reach their potential customers?
You know something? That's a great question, and I think that this is something that we have put a lot of thought into for next year. And I think our show, we don't want it to become, there's another show at the same time, Alan West, which is a wonderful show because they are mostly entertainment. And, I think it's a wonderful event for people to go to Alan West, then come to us. We are a more serious show. We're a juried show, obviously. And we are looking for, more of the high-end buyer. We do want to appeal to everyone. We have some crafts, but it's important to us to keep the show at a high level. And it's going to be a huge challenge. I've been in touch with shows from, our concern is safety first and foremost with patrons and with artists. And there will be so many problems as far as galleries closing. That's absolutely true. One of our goals, and I hope that you can help us with this, and we may be able to help you with that issue. We want to become a year-round presence in the community. One of the things we have thought about is using our space, which is not very big, but it is a nice space for local artists to use as a gallery. We would do it, we're a nonprofit and we're not looking for profit. None of our members are paid, we're all volunteer. And our goal, as I said, our founder's goal was to support artists and craftspeople in Buffalo and Western New York. If we could help you, if we could schedule showings at well, it's not a gallery, but our office, and turn it into a gallery, we'd be happy to help you with that. And that's something that we would have to have you as the artist promote. We could promote it through Facebook or our website and things like that. But we would be happy to help people with showings. And also the show. And we expect the show to be back next year. And we do expect a lot of energy next year. We expect people to come back in force. I think the public will want to see us back. The reaction when we closed was so touching, because we had so many people write to us through Facebook and say how heartbroken they were, that they look forward to the show. And I think we realized we're an even bigger presence in Buffalo than we had thought. And I think it's important for all of the artists in the show. We have the virtual show. As I said, the virtual show will allow people to see your work before they even come to the show. It will allow people to order from you if you would like. So I think that we can use technology for promotion. This is all new to us, and we are actually at this stage too recruiting members to help us get into this, new technology, new way of promotion, everything. So we're working with it, and if we can work with you to help promote the show, we're more than happy to do it. Kind of a long answer, but hopefully a good one.
No, that's good. Thank you. The next question we have pertains to actually Allentown itself. And one of our members is wondering, because they're at that show, it's in attendance every year, seeing all the dogs walking around and the dogs getting their feet burned on the pavement and panting and howling and carrying on. And so the question is there any possibility that dogs will be banned from the show, or where do you stand on that?
you know something, this is an issue every year. And we ask people, please don't bring your dogs. And I've said it whenever on TV, radio. But there are people in the neighborhood who have dogs, and there are certain things, and we practically beg people, please don't bring your dogs, because the dogs, I think what people have to realize is that dogs are sort of at knee level, maybe bigger, but their heads are sort of at knee level. They're looking at all of these people. They get stepped on, they get run into by strollers. It's hot, they're panting, and we are in 100% agreement. Fortunately, I think some of the show is definitely people coming out and sort of being a little bit not necessarily outraged, but maybe wanting to make a statement, and they bring their dogs to sort of make a statement. And we would love if they didn't. Believe me, we would. I mean, the best that we can do is put out some water for the dogs. But I am in agreement. I wish people would not bring dogs.
Okay, thank you. Robin would also like to ask, once COVID is cleared up and that's no longer an issue for us, would you be willing to join us in East Aurora on the Roycroft campus for one of our regular meetings in person?
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. I was really hoping to come, well, expecting to, I guess, to come down and meet everybody. And yes, I would love to.
It sounds like your internet and my internet are both kind of unstable today, so we're having a lot of in and out on the live feed. But I think everyone is kind of still hanging in with us.
Oh, that's too bad.
Vicky would like to know, other shows, other venues have banned
Good.
dogs. Are you willing to actually ban having dogs at the show?
Well, again, it's a very difficult issue because it's a neighborhood, and everyone's by the people who live in the neighborhood. I don't think we could successfully do that.
Okay. Is your jury process based on the medium you work in, and how many other artists use that media? So in other words, are you dividing by category and then only so many in a category can jury into the show?
No, not really. What we do is each, you apply in your media, and each one is juried separately. And we don't have any set numbers. We have a formula where we prefer to have more of our art categories versus crafts categories, but it's not etched in stone. I mean, we have sometimes we have such incredible entries. We don't really have a set number of artists in the show, which I think makes a big difference, because we are limited to 450, and that's too many. I think at our largest we had 430, and that's really too big, because the issues that crop up can be difficult, as far as sometimes you never know what may happen. Sometimes there's a sewer in someone's booth. Sometimes there's sewer smell. Sometimes leave space artists. Again, is that 450 max? We would go back up to 430 if we have the quality applications. Truthfully, it's become a little bit more difficult because there are many, many, many art shows now. And when Allentown started, that was not the case. There were, I don't know how many there were back then, but now we have a lot of competition with Cincinnati, Chicago, and Pittsburgh. So we have made a decision to make the show smaller to keep quality, because it's very important to us. It doesn't make sense for us to have a massive show and have a lot of lower quality items in the show. It hurts the artists, it hurts our reputation. So we don't ever want to do that. But as such, we don't have a specific number that we accept for each category.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about, say, someone who's never applied to the show or never been accepted to the show? What are you looking for in terms of what's going to get you approved to get into Allentown as an artist?
Well, now I have a little story for you. And she found out we were canceled. And she put on Facebook how upset she was. I called her and we both cried, to tell you the truth, because she was so upset. I was upset, of course, with the show. But what we do is we require a booth shot, as you probably know. And if you're a new applicant and if you've never been in a show before, you obviously would not have a booth. So we work with people who are first-time artists. And as far as getting into the show, we just tell them to put a little grouping of their work together so that we can look at it and have a good idea of what it is that they're going to present to us. So we help with advice about how to set up a booth, where to get a tent, because if people are new to the business, they probably don't have one. So we give a lot of advice about where to get a tent, how to weigh it down, what to put inside to make the display attractive, and really it's an interesting thing because sometimes people don't get accepted because they don't realize that the images that they're sending are not clear enough. And I go through all of the images that are sent in. And if I see something that I know isn't good, I will call the artist and say, I recommend that you redo that. Sometimes people put models, for instance, if it's jewelry or clothing, and that doesn't help. It takes away from the art itself. And or sometimes people will put several images within one, maybe they'll have like 4 or 5, because the judges need to see the detail in the work. And if I see that someone has sent an image that I realize won't help them, I absolutely call them, work with them, tell them to send me some new images so that I can look at them and then recommend that that's what they submit to the show. We're happy to work with people because we're looking for new artists. We're looking for returning artists. I mean, the show we like to have new blood, obviously, but it's vitally important to us to have people come back also, because many of our patrons are looking for a particular artist. They know where that artist is. They want to see that artist. And so we work with everyone so that hopefully they can have success in getting into the show.
Excellent. Our next question is, how do you select artists for the awards that you give?
Well, the judges who jury the show actually are the judges who determine the award winners. And we have a judge, because this is something that we've talked about, that instead of having a judging hall, perhaps the judges should walk the show. The judges immediately said no, because the show is too large. So we have a judging hall, which is at the Troop I post on Franklin Street. And it's funny because sometimes there's a problem for artists to get their work down to the judging hall. We were going to watch people's booths while they brought their piece down to the judging hall, or transporting that. Last year, we actually did not have as many people that the judging was the prizes are very good, and so everything in the judging hall, it's all set up. Each category is done separately. The judges, the 5 judges, look at each piece and then determine who the winners will be.
Great. Next question is, how do you define art versus craft? Do you mean fine art, as in two-dimensional art when you refer to art?
Our categories are, painting, sculpture, photography, mixed media, considered fine art, and then the craft would be like wooden pieces, clay pieces. Jewelry is actually in craft. It's sort of not as tightly defined as fiber, for instance, or leather or wood, and it got to be a little bit. So we decided to leave it the way it is because again, when we offer the awards, we offer craft awards and fine art awards or art, and it's it's a fine line, and not one that we make a real strong distinction between.
Okay. Our group is asking, how many jurors are there, and how are they selected? Do they stay the same year after year, or do you change them up?
We have 5 jurors every year, and they are changed every year. We have a lot of them come from Buff State, the art department at Buff State. They're very good with us, and they've provided us with some really good jurors. They're professors, and others are local artists actually, and we reach out to people and people obviously who are not exhibiting in the show. And a lot of times we have street judges also, that it's very important for us to not have buy sell in the show. And buy sell is, I'm sure you're all aware, but anyway, is people who go out and buy things and then sell. We know what happens when we see it. We shut it down. So we do have 2 street judges who help us with that, and they're usually, they could be art professors or they could be local artists also. Some of our street judges have actually joined us, which joined our group, which is wonderful because we love having artists in our group because they have a fine eye and they can help us with the things that we do. But we do have the 5 jurors change every year. And some people have done it more than once, but we do change every year. We do reach out to the community to find new people every year. So if anybody's interested in being a judge at any point, please let me know because we would love to have you.
Excellent. And when it comes to your applicants, do you give preference to artists who are local to the area, or does everyone get lumped in sort of together?
Everyone does get lumped in together, and but we do, the majority of the artists in the show are local. Most people are from actually Pennsylvania. We have a lot of people from Pennsylvania, but I would say most of the artists are probably from about 200 miles from here, and a lot of them are from Florida. However, most of them were Western New York natives or Pennsylvania natives who moved to Florida. So we don't give preference, but come to any sort of decision or anything about this. But back to our virtual show, one of the things that we were thinking, because we're kind of looking to see what other artists virtual show within the virtual show, where we would actually be able to help the artist sell artwork that they would like to sell. Because that is, as it is now, the virtual show, each artist is responsible for any of the sales that are, we don't have anything to do with that. But we're kind of thinking that the virtual show may be a way for us to move. There's something we have to move into, depending on what happens next year, and also just the convenience for people, because we have a lot of people, a lot of our artists from many years, maybe having a local virtual show. But that's something that we're talking about that.
Excellent. So one from an artist who's done the show for many, many years. Attendance has been dropping at the show. Is there any particular reason you see for that?
Unfortunately, yes, I do. We were the only game in town. Buffalo was not in good condition as a city. And in the past few years, Buffalo has changed quite a bit. And there's so much going on. We have a lot of competition from the waterfront, well, canal side, all sorts of events. There are lots and lots of events going on every weekend. And so what we are attempting to do is we are publicizing the show more than we had. We've relied on publicity through TV stations right before the show. We always get mentioned on TV shows, the news shows. We get mentioned on AM Buffalo used to have us on. So what we are planning to do is be a little bit more pro in getting the word out that yes, the show is happening. We don't want people to forget that the show is happening. And we're working with Buffalo Rising to do that, just to get the word out to everybody in the community, younger people who've been coming for years, and to get people out. And we're also promoting that, we have new artists every year. We have old perks before they come to the show. So we're working on it, and we do know that I would say the crowd last year was not as much as it had been, but it's something that we're working on. And again, that's something that we're asking everyone to promote. Also, if you have social media, throw it up there that the show is happening, that you'll be at the show, and we are actually advertising through Facebook and through other media to remind people the show is happening.
Okay, great. In terms of your virtual show, is that going to continue, or is that just during the time that the show would have normally been going on? Do you have plans to continue that? Is it going to be an extended virtual show? Do you know yet?
Yes, we are continuing the show because we realized there's really no reason for us to take the show down. It's up there and it will stay up there, and we will continue to advertise the virtual show throughout the year. What we're planning on doing is leaving everyone who's on the virtual show now on the show until we jury the 2021 show. As soon as we jury the 2021 show, we will put the artists up on the virtual before the show even begins. We're tightening up our application process, because we realized that some of the things with the show, as I said, we were really behind the curve on technology, and our applications used to be due in January. We notified in March, because it took us that long to process the applications and to lay out the show. Now, since it's done electronically, we don't need that much time anymore. So what we're going to do is we'll have the deadline for the applications in January. We will be able to notify artists in February, so that it's better for the artists also, because they can plan their shows, because some of the artists come from Florida, or wherever they're coming from, and they make the circuit. So it'll be easier and better for them to be notified by February what's happening. And we'll put the virtual show up immediately, and we'll start to advertise it and really generate interest for people to come to the show to see this beautiful artwork in person. So this is something that we are going to keep.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. So it looks like we're about through the questions from the group. The only other thing is I would just like you to let everyone know again where they can find information about Allentown, where they can. Oh, there's one more question. Will the 2020 accepted artists automatically be accepted in 2021?
Oh, I'll go through the jury process again. All right. However, we not refuse anyone who was accepted in 2020.
I think we're back.
Oh, we're back. Good.
Yeah, we
Yay.
cut out for a minute, but you came back, so that's good.
Good.
Okay.
Good. It might be my internet. I don't know.
Well, you know what? I think there's so many people online right now. The internet is unstable everywhere. So between yours and mine, there's a delay.
Right.
And between me and YouTube, there's a delay.
Yeah.
And I also got another couple questions through text
But yes,
while we were away.
our website is. Oh, good. Okay. Good.
Uh, when you get feedback from artists, what kind of feedback do you get from your artists at the show, and then what do you do with that feedback when you get it?
Well, it runs the gamut, truthfully. We have some artists who are very happy with the way things have gone. We have, what any kind of feedback we get, we take very seriously. Truthfully, in the past, our security people were a little bit aggressive with the artists, and some of the artists felt that their techniques were a little bit harsh. And that's something that we discussed, and we've completely mellowed that. We don't want any artist to feel uncomfortable at the show. It's vitally, you are our lifeblood, and it's very important to us that you feel comfortable at the show. And as I said, I want people to feel, if usually the feedback I get is that someone doesn't like a space for one particular reason. Some people like to be on Delaware, and if they're on Franklin, they'll tell me, I don't like Franklin, I want the action on Delaware. Some people will tell me, I don't like Delaware, it's too hot, it's too busy, it's whatever, I like Franklin. And so I move them. If they want to be moved, I absolutely move them to wherever they would like to. Actually, this one of and very major feedback from one of our artists was a wonderful jeweler who had been in our show for about 30 years. And she said to me, she said, you know what? She said, take a walk with me. Okay. I walked with her. She pointed out every artist in the show who was legitimate and everyone who was not. And she knew from being at the shows that some of the people were not legit, and she told me that. And whenever we get feedback, last year there was actually a lot of feedback about one of the leather artists in the show. Two of the other leather artists came to me and said, not legit. And I follow up on that. I look it up. I go to the internet and I look up, this person's background or that sort of thing. And we send people to go and talk to other artists if there's a question. So when we get feedback, sometimes we get feedback about noise. We try to reduce the noise, whether it's generators from the food vendors or whatever the case may be. We take everything seriously, and we want feedback. We want to know we're looking to improve the show every year. this was our 63rd year, but that doesn't mean that we can't look for improvements. We're always looking for improvements. We're looking for a better situation for the artists, a better experience for everyone. So we take feedback very seriously.
Okay, great. And also, if you have an artist at your show who doesn't apply again, do you follow up with that artist to find out why they didn't return?
We do if it's someone who has been in the show more than once, and it's kind of it's a matter of kind of noticing why, or noticing who's missing, and sometimes it doesn't happen until the show, and I think, wait a minute, what happened to? And I will follow up. We had an artist several years ago who made furniture, and she was very excited about the furniture. And when she got to the show, the furniture was somewhat um, risque, shall we say. And it wasn't obscene, but it was risque. And risque does not cut it in Buffalo. And apparently, her furniture was very popular in Florida, and she was very disappointed that she didn't do well at our show. It was very expensive, and as I said, risque. And it wasn't something that would go in traditional homes, and it didn't go well. And so she went on a blog on our Fair Insiders, and she just trashed our show, everything about it. And I called her not to say, who are you to say these things? But we talked about it, and I said, I guess you have to know your audience. And she agreed. She did agree that, and it was funny because it did open up a huge dialogue from other artists who had been in our show who defended us, which was wonderful to see. That sometimes there are cases where some artists just aren't right for their sales don't happen because it's just not the right sort of thing for this area. That happens, and we do hope that if people have a problem, they would come and talk to us rather than just badmouth us on Facebook or something like that, because we really try very hard to work with people, and I try to place people in an area where I think that they will get maximum exposure for what they do. And so I have followed up with some people to ask them why. And generally, it's funny, we have a photographer who's been in the show for many years, and we were talking, and he said his sales were down. And of course I said, I hate to hear that because he's been in the show for years and he's a good friend. And then he said, something, I haven't taken really new photographs in a long time. He said, I think people they've bought what they're going to buy because I need to do some new stuff. And he left on a trip to Ireland, I think maybe 2 or 3 days after the show. So I was really excited to see what he had this year because he was going to have some new things. So I do like to follow up with people, and I do, if I do notice that someone was in the show, even if it is, we had a young man who was in the show. It was his first time. He had really interesting stuff. It was sculptures made from silverware, but it was really interesting what he did with it. And he wasn't happy, and he didn't come back on Sunday. And I was very upset because his booth was gone. So I called him, and we talked about it and talked about what he could do to help his display and what we could do to help him. And I moved him the next year to a different spot. He was on Allen Street, and it wasn't a good spot for him. Allen Street is, for some people, it's great. For some people, it isn't. Again, it's a balancing act to find out where people will do well. And I try to do that, and I try to work with people because I want people to do well. So I do like to find out if someone has a bad year. Please let me know. Let me know if it was a location, if it was, I don't know, whatever it could be, because we do like to help people. And so we try.
Yeah, it sounds like you do a lot of communication with your artists, which is nice because some shows don't really communicate at all. It's just you get what you get, and we don't discuss it. So it's nice to have
Yeah,
that give and take and the feedback, especially, for artists who are trying to jury into a show like that and maybe don't quite have their feet under them yet to know
mhm.
what they need to do. At least they have some guidance instead of just a you're in or you're not in kind of situation. So that's really
I
nice.
do. I really do. And the other thing that I do is if people do not get in, I tell them to talk to me. Let's find out why. Let's find out if it is a case that the images were not good, because that's really difficult. Because it's best to have a professional photographer do the photos, because um, it's hard if you take a shot with an iPhone. You never know. We had a jeweler, as a matter of fact, who had been in for years and years and years, and when we switched over to digital, his photos were just they didn't cut it. And I was shocked, because we knew him and we knew that there was no way that these were representative of his work, and called him and said, these aren't good. You've got to do something about this. And so I do work with people who don't get into the show. And I also actually had an embarrassing moment. I was at the Lewiston Festival, and there was a woman there who had absolutely gorgeous metalwork. It's copper and glass, beautiful, beautiful work. And I said to her, "Would you ever consider doing Allentown?" And she said, "Well, I might have if I didn't get rejected every year." So of course I was mortified and said, "I'm sorry, let me."
Whoops.
I know. So how did that happen? And so I saw what she sent us, and you couldn't even tell what it was, because the background it just didn't work. So I called her and I said, "We didn't even realize what these were." And so she changed her images. She's been in ever since, and it's a wonderful thing. But the other thing that I will do too is, sometimes I see things, people send things in, and I know they won't get juried in. And I tell them, there's a show called Allen West. It's right next to us. It's the same weekend. They get the same crowd that we do, or close to it, because so a lot of people go to both. And I just say, call them, because I know that what you do would be very good for them, but it just won't be you won't be juried in with us. And I'm not trying to insult them. And I say to them in such a way that they understand that that's a funky show, and it's a fun, funky kind of thing, and it's a little crazier than we are. And so I do recommend that they go there, and a lot of them have done that, and they've had good shows.
Well, it's always nice to have some direction. If you're not going to get into one show, at least you know where you can go, where you have other options.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely helpful for us as artists to have that kind of guidance, especially I think people who are new or haven't done a lot of shows really appreciate that. So
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And a lot of it is a learning process. And some of them don't have enough artwork, because you have to have a decent amount to do the show. Some of them don't. And we talk about that, and what they can do about that, as far as in the future. And it's kind of like start off with a small show, learn how to do it, because it really is a process about learning display and learning how to price things. I mean, there's so much to this. It's not easy to just jump into, especially a big show like Allentown. And I do try to help people and guide them with, how they can break into it. And I try. We try.
excellent. That's really nice to hear. I personally have never applied to the show. I was a little intimidated, but I feel better about it now. So I may do that next year.
That's something I never want people to be intimidated, because I have run into that I've spoken to some people at other shows, and they'll just say, "Oh, I'd never get in." And I say, "I think you would. I really do think you would. And please, apply." And again, we are more than happy to help out as far as the whole application process goes, because it is intimidating. And especially now, we go through an organization called Zapplication, which is good and
Right.
bad. Oh, are we losing you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. And it's good and bad, but one thing that we do our own jurying, and that's something that artists sometimes don't realize, that a lot of these application shows have Zap do the jurying, and those are corporate shows that do that. We don't do that. We still want the hands-on process, and we still want to. I mean, sometimes I know, as I said, when I see that an artist applies and something doesn't go right, I'm more than happy to work with that artist and just say, something happened. Let's talk about this and see what we can do.
Right, right. Okay, I think we are at the end of our questions. So if you just want to tell everybody one more time where they can find information about the show, where they can find the virtual show, I will go ahead when we're finished here before this goes up permanently on YouTube and put the links and everything like that for you. But for
Great.
everybody who's tuning in live now who wants to go right over there, where do they
Okay.
find it?
Okay. Allentown Art Festival .com. That's it. And Allentown Art Festival at gmail.com is if you want to reach me. You can email me at that address. And if you go to our website, I think the first thing that pops up actually when you type in allentownartfestival.com is virtual show. So it comes right up, and there's sort of instructions about how to use the virtual show. It's very simple. I mean, you just see it, and you can go down through each category that you're interested in. And then there's also the store show, excuse me, the show store, which is where you'll find the poster and the T-shirt and all of our old posters and our old T-shirts, and you can sort of design it yourself as far as long sleeve, short sleeve, colors, and believe it or not, they're also face masks. Allentown Art Festival face masks this year.
We may
So there's
still
all
need
sorts
those
of
for
stuff.
next year.
I'm telling you, we may need those. So, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff. You can get leggings, you can get the shirt with the pattern going all the way around. So it's kind of
Cool.
fun. And you can, and again, if you want to go back to any of the old shows, you can see all the old posters and design your own T-shirt from any year that you're interested in. Those are those are not included in our Buffalo or Western New York Food Bank um, donation. But anything from this year, any merchandise from this beautiful poster will be donated to the food bank. And we're really excited about that because we know this is a tough time, and we know a lot of people are really hurting.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I will get that information posted. Rita, thank you so much for being with us
Oh,
tonight
thank you. It was
and
wonderful.
staying with us during all the little technical glitches that we had going on here. Because I'm still new at this, so
Oh, I'm brand new.
we're all
Brand new. So,
we're all learning how to live
yeah.
a new life online. So
I know. I can't wait till we're all together again. I would love to come down and meet you if you would have me. I would love it.
absolutely. So Robin will be in touch with you, I'm sure, about that when we get
Great.
the all clear and we can all go back to normal life. And
Oh,
again, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.
oh, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, have a great night.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye now.